Welcome to another edition of Squad 915 Spotlights, and I'd like to thank you very much for watching. And today's Spotlight, we have a very special guest with us today. Please welcome attorney Brian Rodriguez, attorney and owner of Brian Rodriguez Law Office. How you doing today, Brian?
I'm doing all right, Tony. Thank you for bringing me along. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We are here at your house.
We are at my house.
Yeah, on the east side of El Paso. Beautiful house, beautiful neighborhood, like I told you. I love all the brick houses that are out here. I've always had an interest in brick houses, and so your house has stucco on it, like my house, but it's a beautiful neighborhood nonetheless.
I really appreciate you. And just to let you know, this is actually the house that I grew up in. I was able to sort of inherit it. So it's one of these things where my children get to also be here. So I love the neighborhood. It's a quiet neighborhood, has good schools around it. So I've always been an East Sider, and I really like it here.
Oh, awesome. So today we're going to talk to Brian about his business, his law office, his life, and we're going to get into the minutia of the different types of law that you practice at Brian Rodriguez Law Firm. And so we're going to get into that here in just a few minutes. But before we do, as always, I like to identify all my guests as human beings. And so, Brian, let's talk about you and just kind of go a little bit on the timeline as to your life, because you said you were born and raised here in El Paso. You graduated from Montwood in 2007, so you were a Montwood Ram.
Correct, yes.
Right? I graduated in 99 from Coronado, so I'm a Thunderbird.
Gotcha.
Pretty much lived here your whole life. You said you have your family lives here. Which was interesting to me was that you said your dad was in law enforcement. So do you want to kind of talk about that a little bit?
Correct. So yes, I've been an East Sider all my life, as I explained. Part of that too is, again, all my family's, still on the east side, but a lot of my family also is from the Riverside area, from the Bowie area. But yes, my dad was a police officer. He still is a police officer too in some regard, but at the time he was in El Paso PD. My mom was a school teacher, and part of that is why I got into criminal law specifically. Mm-hmm. I do practice other areas, which I'll get into, but my main area is criminal law. I did a lot of speech and debate in high school. I also did wrestling. And so a lot of those are sort of, aggressive, sports, either when you're actually battling somebody or whether you're arguing somebody, because the legal process in and of itself is an adversarial process. You're going up against somebody, and you either want to have the best argument or the best tools to beat that person. So I always had that drive for competition for the adversarial process. I did graduate from Montwood in 2007. Yes, I am a Ram. I know we have some rivalry between Coronado and Montwood, but we can still be friends, right, Tony?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Well, you got to think that you graduated in 2007 and I graduated in 1999, which still is the best class because we were the last of the millennium. So pretty proud of that one.
Yeah, come on.
Right before Y2K, no less.
Exactly.
But
so after that, I moved to Austin. I went to the University of Texas at Austin. Over there, I studied Spanish linguistics, I studied government, and I studied biology. And so initially what I wanted to do was I thought I wanted to be a patent lawyer. I wanted to patent, businesses or, business products, pharmaceuticals, anything like that had a hard science background. I ended up not pursuing that because, again, my dad was a police officer. I sort of grew up around criminal law. It was interesting, especially now because true crime is really popular. For me, it's always been an interest before as well. Growing up in the 90s, there was a lot of things on Court TV. You had the O.J. Simpson trial. You had amazing attorneys that were arguing and doing things like that. You had, the Timothy McVeigh bomber trial that was on there, where somebody is having to defend somebody who's accused of something especially heinous. People, children were killed in those types of things. And I really respected the fact that you could put aside some of those biases and understand that, look, whether this person's a terrorist, whether they're falsely accused, you're still defending somebody with respect to their constitutional rights. And so I started to develop that whenever I was at the University of Texas. I graduated from there in 2011. I went to law school in Houston, I went to the Thurgood Marshall School of Law, which I graduated in 2014. And many of my internships and things like that were public interest based. I knew at some point what I wanted to do was help my community. I know it sounds kind of hokey, it really does. I think every lawyer wants to help their community. That's why everyone gets into it. But I specifically also, my dad was a cop, but many of my other family members, they were within the criminal justice system, and I saw how that could tear lives apart, where even if you did something, part of the criminal justice system is very punitive. And it punishes that person, whoever did whatever wrong, but it also punishes their family. Their kids are innocent in these types of things. But if their dad gets sent away to prison, dad's not able to be there, emotionally, is able to support them financially. And then additionally, you have mom or whatever family members that are given the additional stress to take care of these kids. Even in cases like probation. Probation isn't free. You still have to pay fines, you still have to pay fees, you have to donate your time. And so things like that take away from your children the opportunities you have. And just having that scarlet letter of having a conviction, whether it's misdemeanor or felony, misdemeanor convictions are just as important. And I saw how that could affect my family. So at that point, I was sort of geared to the public interest. I interned at Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid, helping people access benefits, helping people stay in their homes, helping people life conditions to their homes. Like maybe they were renting out a place that wasn't the best, that wasn't up to standards, but they didn't have the money to be able to hire an attorney to tell landlord, hey, get the bugs out of here, fix the AC, fix the sink, things that are common that you need to live. And so I did that. But my biggest influence was when I interned at the public defender's office, because there I was able to, meet with clients who were in those dire situations that I was talking about. And I knew right then and there that I wanted to have a public interest type lawyer. I wouldn't say job, but sort of career path. So then after that, what I did was I worked at the district attorney's office, because I thought there I can, one, get trial experience, which as I advertise, I advertise myself as being a trial lawyer. I wanted to get the trial experience because I know as a district attorney, you go to trial a lot, because you're dealing with all these different people that are coming in and out of the criminal justice system. And some people, want and deserve their day in court. So I did work with the district attorney's office for a little over 2 years. I handled everything from misdemeanor cases, like assault family violence cases, driving while intoxicated cases, harassment, all those types of misdemeanors that we have. I handled all those at the trial level, went to trial on those. After that, I was assigned to a felony unit where I did everything from murders, went to trial on sexual assaults, aggravated assaults with a deadly weapon. Some of those, like I said, those dirty cases, or that people perceive them dirty. Again, everybody is innocent until proven guilty. But, when you have the accusation of something like a sex crime, that can, be something that causes you to pause. But I did all those cases. But ultimately, I knew in my heart was I wanted to represent people, have somebody that you can shake their hand, have somebody that you can really know. So eventually I did transition back to the public defender's office, where I did everything again from misdemeanors all the way to capital murder cases. I had not guilties on murder trials, not guilties on sexual assault cases, not guilties on aggravated assault with a deadly weapon cases, all the serious stuff that you could think of, right? Where somebody got hurt, things like that. Because you have to realize there's two, sides of the coin. You have people that, are guilty, but maybe we shouldn't punish them at a certain level because of certain circumstances that happen to their lives. Or somebody's being falsely accused and the state just doesn't have the evidence to prove it. So you're able to be that buffer where you can help them maintain their constitutional rights and freedoms, while also pointing out the deficiencies in the state and the police's arguments, where you had things that you could have done and you didn't do. And so I practiced there for the better part of 7 years, I would say 7 or 8 years. But for the last year and a half or so, I've been in private practice. Like I said, a goal of mine was to be a trial attorney. And I feel like I was able to gain that sort of experience with the public defenders, because also with the public defenders too, is you have a lot of clients as well, whereas in private practice you don't have as many. But having that many clients is, a lot of them, are falsely accused. A lot of them you can't prove it, so you take it to trial. You force the state to prove it, or you say, look, maybe you're offering this guy 40 years. I don't think he deserves 40 years. This is a first-time offender. This is somebody who grew up not having a father. This is somebody who grew up not having their parents. This is somebody who grew up in a household of abuse or poverty. Mm-hmm. So they weren't exposed to these certain things, or they weren't given the right direction. They were forced into a certain path. And so I was able to go to trial quite a bit. But in private practice for the last year or so, the reason why I left to private practice was also to get into the business side of things. I wanted to also branch out outside of criminal law and take that trial practice, that negotiation, into representing small businesses, helping people in their custody battles, and then foremost, helping people in their criminal aspects. And so I've been doing that for about a year and a half, I would say. My practice is primarily criminal defense, but like I said, I am trying to branch out and have branched out to representing small businesses and making sure that they reduce their liability, whether it's financially or whether it's a worker or somebody else that's accusing them of certain things. It's reducing their liability so that their personal assets don't get affected. But that's essentially my path over the last 2 decades or so.
Podcast over. We did everything. We're good to go. Ready to go. You already just gave us your entire, path and everything else. So I appreciate that. No wonder why you're a trial lawyer.
I could just go off and talk a lot. Yeah.
No, but I appreciate you kind of giving us the entire timeline. I am going to take a few steps back and kind of go back just a little bit. And then we're going to kind of go a little bit more into the details about what you talked about. Because obviously you kind of mentioned some of the things that you have done, you've been doing, and what you want to do, correct? And so I think it's important for us to step back a little bit and just to touch on how and what inspired you to get into law.